Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Can I have everyone's attention? Don't you see when you go to summer camp to say, clap once if you hear me, and then everybody would clap? No, you don't have to do it. I was taking you back to summer camp. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. William Franklin. I'm the Vice President for Student Affairs here, a job that I get to come to daily. It is one of the best things that ever happened to me and my family. I don't know if it's the best thing to happen to you and your family, but my family is really delighted about this, and we just love Dominguez Hills. We love what Dominguez Hills stands for. We love who Dominguez Hills is, more importantly, and what today is going to be about. We love who Dominguez Hills has the potential to continue to become. And so that's what this conversation is going to be about. But before we get started, I would like to set a context and then have a small moment of silence. This weekend, we lost one of our own Toros. And whenever you lose someone in your campus community, it is a necessary time to pause. And so, because we're still working with the family and trying to establish some of the facts, we're not releasing names and details just yet, but that's forthcoming. And do know that given the circumstances surrounding it, there's no threat to the campus or anything like that. We lost someone. And in the moment of silence, I want you to think about a few things. Number one, about the family, critical and important. So reflect on the family. And then I want you to reflect on the housing family, those group of professionals and student RAs. Yeah, my voice is trembling because I was with them at 1 a.m. in the morning on Friday and Saturday morning, and we were together during this whole piece. So I want you to think about the housing family. They did a phenomenal job. They did everything they needed to do at the time they needed to do it, and they were there for one another, and more importantly, they were there representing you even when you couldn't be here. So think about them. Think about our students. Really reflect on who they are and what they bring to the table and how we have to begin to manage this loss and understand it fully, and that'll happen in the coming days. And more importantly, and or equally as important, I want you to think about yourself. Whenever these kinds of events happen, it can't help but trigger something in our own space. And so those are the things I want to think about. So let's have a moment of reflection, and then we'll get back to business as usual. All right, thank you, and hey, welcome y'all. Come on in, join your family. Good to see you. Look, I know it's difficult to then move from there to what we're about to talk about, so I'm going to have you do that in your own pace and at your own time and in your own way. But I thought it was important at the top of this conversation to have that moment of reflection versus getting everything else out of the way and then having that moment of reflection, because I think the important thing is that we're together with one another. And I want to say I missed you all last time. I was at my niece's graduation during our last division meeting, and I got to tell you, I had a good time at Texas Southern University. It was the South. I will leave it at that. But it was quite an interesting run, but we had a good time. She is now a full-time employee at United Airlines. That's a good place to clap. I'm so happy. Uncle does not have to send her money and all that good stuff, so I am really proud of her, and this is what higher education should be about. And she kind of took the circular path, because you know you leave high school and you go right into college. She did that. Not a good look. And so what we're going to talk about today is not necessarily what our students need, but what we need to ensure we have in place for them when they arrive. So that's a good segue, because I'm going to use my own niece as a personal story. So for most of our students, Dr. Brandon's not here. Any enrollment management teams here? Yeah, a few hands. Go ahead, team, represent. They are in the middle right now of an enrollment funnel, which may have started somewhere at a college fair or a Black Expo or and people were talking to come to Dominguez Hills, apply to Dominguez Hills. They threw the application in. We've now admitted many of them, and now we're trying to court them a little bit better so that we can then get them to say, I intend to enroll. So they turn that intent to enroll in, and then they put that deposit down, and then it is time to have new student orientation. And they show up at new student orientation, and they get excited. They see those kids in the brochure who look like they're having a good time, and it's like, this is where I want to be. So they turn in that deposit, they come to NSO, and they show up for the first day of classes. Most of our full-time, first-time students with every bit of excitement they deserve. We also have a slew of transfer students and graduate students. But I want to focus for a minute on our first-time, full-time students. Those are your 17, 18, and 19-year-olds. Raise your hand if you were one of them once. Somebody's like, I don't know if I was ever 17. Yes, you were. So we're going to talk about that, and I want you to keep that perspective in mind when you were 17, 18, and 19. How many of you were the first in your family to go to college? Yeah, probably the majority of you. That's what I love about Dominguez Hills. We don't just serve students who were the first in their families. Many of us were the first in our families, and so it allows us to have a perspective that we otherwise would not have. And so institutions are uniquely designed. They're uniquely designed to get the success they get, and we love talking about our success. It's what we do. We're doing really well. Look at our retention rates. Look at our graduation rates. Even U.S. News and World Today. U.S. News, and they promote institutions who do really well and why they do really well. So we can talk about our success really well, but institutions are also uniquely designed to set up barriers to matriculation, retention, and graduation. And it's not, we don't talk about our barriers. We don't talk about what we don't do well. And we just continue doing the same things over again, thinking we're going to get a different result, and it sometimes does not happen. And so we're going to bring this close to home and talk about student affairs. I don't want to just spout rhetoric. I want to be about understanding that maybe the design that we came up with may not be working as well as it should be, and perhaps we need to retool and look at some different ways of doing it. So we have been together, and Matthew Smith is here. I'm glad he's here. But we have been talking about how we learn together, how we journey together, and how we thrive together. Some of you, this is your first time seeing this. Some of you have seen it before. But it's from an old African proverb, which says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. That's where this go far together comes from. We have been going alone as student affairs. We've been going alone as academic affairs. We've been going alone as institutional technology. We have inadvertently set up these little silos of how we do our business and how we connect to one another. It's not working. It was never intended to work. And what I found from the experience of my niece, Texas Southern University, is, boy, there are no silent departures at Texas Southern. She told me that she was sitting in the union one day and she had missed class and her advisor walked in. And excuse me, but I'm just going to quote what the advisor said. What the hell are you doing here? The advisor knew her schedule and knew she shouldn't be sitting there. And then the advisor told her, you get your little and get back to class. You fill in that blank. And now, not that that's what I'm asking that we do, but some kind of way, the excitement that that kid is feeling when they show up, first day of classes, and they saw that little brochure, I don't want their exit to be unceremonious. I want to know why they're gone. I want to know how we can assist. And I also want to know, what did we do that may have caused the barrier? Was it in not having enough? As a student, I was one rent check away from having a check out of school. Seriously. And I slept on many couches because sometimes the rent just couldn't be paid. And so there's a level of understanding that we're going to have. So clearly, in terms of learning together, these are some of the things. I'm not going to read them to you. We'll make this slideshow available. But we got to learn how to change. Change is hard. And I'm not saying that we know how to change. We have to learn how to change. We have to learn how to stand shoulder to shoulder and help faculty understand what you do and help you understand what faculty do, because at the end of the day, it's really about what our students are able to benefit from us being connected and together. We got so many barriers at this school. If you knew how many holds are on a student's record at the beginning of it is just amazing. We hold for everything. Like, oh, you got to hold for advising. You got to hold for financial aid. You got to hold for a library fine. They just show up to these series of holds. But there was no hold the first day of classes when they showed up with a lot of excitement. So is that a barrier? I don't know, but we need to look at it and really get into it. And how in the world do we make sure? Where's Tomik? Tomik knows I am passionate. He probably thinks too passionate about assessment. Not because I am curious about numbers, but because how do we hold ourselves accountable for what it is we say we're going to do to ensure that we're doing it, so that if we're not doing it, that's not a finger wag or any criticalness. It's just more so, wow, we set a target, we aimed, we shot, and we did not hit it. That's okay, because we're going to strategize about what we didn't do right, and then try to reframe it and try to see if we can't get closer to the target. We may not even hit it year 2, but at least we set up a target, we had an aim, and we're going forward. What happens now in higher education is that we shoot, the target's here, but we didn't hit the target, but nobody talked about the target in advance, and so we kind of do this. Like my daughter did the other day. She had a little bow, and I could see her, and she put the arrow right in the center. And he said, "Daddy, I hit it." No, sweetie, I saw you out the window. You did not hit that target. But it's cute to think that you did, but it's just sort of mystifying. So lastly, we're going to thrive together. We think there are many, many ways of seeking philanthropic support. We think there are many, many ways of getting these things done and holding ourselves accountable for outcomes. And so I'm going to be having a lot of detailed conversations with Tomik. The way you see the assessment center now is not the assessment center Tomik and me sat down and talked about 2.5 years ago. Not that. It has just become that by default. But it needs to become something by design so that we can stand shoulder to shoulder with you and help you set some realistic goals and aspirations, and then begin to build it into something where we can make sure that it gets done. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second time to plant a best tree is now. I love that quote. Isn't that great? Because we didn't do it 20 years ago, so I'm not holding it against you. And I'm not holding it against me. But there's always a second best time. And that's now. And so we spent a whole year and a half. So what I want to, gas station? Oh, isn't that something? Don't even know who they are, but so we had insight. We had a lot of people from outside come in and help us understand how to frame this. You know that there are some folks who are having great success with our students who are first generation, primarily Pell dependent, primarily commuter, and primarily of color. They're having great success with them as first-time, full-time students. You'll see in a moment, we're not faring very well. It's not a criticism. It's maybe a revelation to most of you, and to some of you, it'll be an opportunity to do some things different. Inside Track came in. We invited the Cal State University in. Then we did a whole assessment report. And then we did a whole, how could we look at academic and career advising and e-tools? And then we had this whole strategic plan that you see these. It was only a draft back in, look at the date on that, 8/18/21. That's when we started with the first framework of the strategic plan. And Matt will come up and talk about it in a moment. But now we've arrived. So what I'm going to share with you is not something that was cooked up by an administration in a smoky boardroom with masks on. This has been from the community, because these groups came in and they talked to you. They interacted with you. When was the retreat? About 2 weeks ago? We had about 60 or 70 folks who showed up at a hotel, the Portofino Hotel, and then they moved this forward even more, trying to capture your voices and understand. So this is something that has come from the community. Yeah, just want to show you first-year retention. So as excited as they are right now to be engaged with the enrollment management team, these are first-time students. They are excited. Now, there's a lot that goes into that, and I don't want to put that up there to make you feel any type of way other than it's an opportunity for us to move this needle forward. But if I'm losing more than 30% of anything after year one, we've got to have some real conversations. But I also don't want to make retention and attrition a binary term, because some of the students that we're holding on to, they're here and we're saying, yes, we held on to them, but they're fragile academically and emotionally, and I worry about them. And then there are some students who we count in the attrition rate, and they're at home with a 3.5 GPA. They did really well. They're in anthropology club, but something is keeping them from being eligible but not enrolled. So that's why I don't want to kind of make it sort of like retention is and attrition is like, ugh, because we have populations in both of those areas that if we intervene, we may be able to get them back in here. So nationally, this pandemic has wreaked havoc on students everywhere across the nation. So there's a historic drop in college persistence rates, historic. So regionally and locally, we've got to figure this out. And I'm concerned about the region, I'm concerned about the locality what we're in, but I live here. And you can be concerned about your neighbors and concerned about your relatives, but you're certainly concerned about those who are 2-bedroom doors down from you, because you have access and you have connection and you have influence. And that's what I want us to sort of concentrate on here. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these, I just did, but we've got to get a different strategy. And so everything I'm going to talk to you about now is going to be about strategy and structure, because it's so important to understand that if we're worried about first and second year students, then let's hold an area accountable to just focus on first and second year students. If we're understanding how we can advise differently and advise in a way that those experts and you all said we need to focus on, then let's look at that. And then there's some other pieces in terms of learning support, living learning communities. And I can dare say, going back to my housing team, who I just want to shout out because they are phenomenal, but they have a community over there. And you can't fake community when there's a crisis. It's hard to do. You just can't fake it when it's a crisis. And you could tell that that's a community. Now, is it a perfect community? Do you have a perfect relationship? Is your time with your parents? No, it's not perfect, but it is a community, and one in which I'm very proud to be the vice president of. So we're going to start with strategy. We're going to try to, if it's a strategy, it means we're not doing it well, which means we need a new strategy. So data-informed decisions, not our strong suit at Dominguez Hills, across the board, in terms of looking at the outcomes we want, tracking those outcomes, ensuring that faculty and staff have good training. It is really, one of the things that we have to stop doing, and I know I'm taking probably longer than I need to because Matt is like, hurry up, dude, but I can't. I keep getting one of the things that we have got to stop doing, I need to stop doing as a vice president, my president needs to stop doing, you all might need to stop doing, is to glorifying burnout culture. I just need you to do more without less. That's crazy. And it's not, that's a good place I know I saw the snaps. We are going to try in this division, we may not have enough resources to do everything. That doesn't mean I'm going to say, well, keep going, Liat. That's burnout culture. So we got to decide, what are we going to focus on? What do we have the resources to do? because it's insane for me to ask you to make brick without straw. And it's equally as insane to glorify this burnout. If I just work harder, we've got to stop that. And so I'm depending on my leadership team to help me begin to say, you know what, this is the resources we've been given. Given the resources, this is what we're going to be able to accomplish. And I mean resources in terms of not just dollars and cents, but also in terms of professional development, also in terms of really beginning to get in and what I would call problematize and solutionatize what we call telework and telecommuting. This pandemic changed us. I don't know if I need to be in your face 5 days a week, 8 hours a day in order to have success. I don't. And so right now, if everything is a hammer, everything seems like a nail. And I think the telecommuting policy is kind of a hammer right now. And it's all we know. So let's have the conversation, but we got to get into making some data-informed decisions. We don't collaborate well. New strategy. We're going to be focused on that, and you'll see that in this piece I'm going to set up. We don't communicate well. Your VP does not communicate well. I don't communicate well with my leadership team. My leadership team may not communicate well with you. We've got to fix this. These division-wide meetings are critical with that. If we're not together once or twice a semester, we're not communicating well. We're also going to begin trying to prioritize, making sure that we're meeting with all of your managers. People are like, amen, they need help. They do. Because here's what we do in higher education. Oh, well, you've been here 6 years. I'm going to make you a manager. Zero training, zero development, zero investment. But they've been here 6 years and they're ready to go. So that's on me, that's on us, and we've got to find a better way to communicate. And so we're going to raise up some communication pieces. We're going to, at least in this division, we're going to raise up a student advisory team. I need to hear from them more often. Rashida and I have been meeting since November with a group of students who are going to help us realize a health, wellness, and recreation center. We've been in it with them. I mean, it's just been, but almost daily, they are brilliant, and I knew that. But if I don't spend time with them, if I'm too busy to be connected to students, I'm way too busy. And that's got to stop. And so the student advisory team, having a staff advisory team that I'm sitting with, who's reflecting, I can't just be in an echo chamber and hear from my leadership team. That doesn't work. It's not working. They know it's not working. I know it's not working. And the crazy part is, let's keep doing it. It might get better. And so here we go. So I'm sorry, you all are trying to follow me on the camera, huh? Are you okay? All right, good. Just realized you back there. So we're going to try to realign the structure. Now I'm going to share this with you. What I'm saying to your AVPs and your directors is that you might have to invite me into one of your area meetings, student life, enrollment management, ed partnerships, athletics, student success, so that we can go deep with this, because we won't have time to go deep, but we'll go deep enough where you get your toes wet. But we're going to realign student affairs so that we not make it about win or lose for student affairs. We make it strictly about win for students. How can they get engaged? So we're trying to disrupt complacency. You know, even in your own, like even the other day, my partner, she came and said to me, we're just in a rut. I don't want to hear that, girl. What you talking about? We're in a but then it's like, well, yeah, we are in a rut. Let's do, so we got rid of the dog. Well, we didn't get rid of the dog. we got the dog and the daughter set up, and we just went and invested in us. We just went in and had a good time. We're going to do that more often, because it's just like, you know, sometimes you have to call a thing a thing. We were complacent. And when you're complacent, it challenges you. So we're going to try to disrupt. I can't change the entire institution. I can certainly try from the cabinet level, but I can certainly stand shoulder to shoulder with you and try to bring some change to student affairs and try to model the way, and then try to hope and go beyond hope try to advocate and push for there to be a university reckoning with, we've gotten a little complacent. How can we begin to move this forward? And so I think the strategic plan goes there. So you're not going to be able to read this. I'm going to break it down. But this is your family. Hello, Family Feud. This is us. That's me at the top. I hate the hierarchy, but it is what it is. It gives you a visual. So I'm going to go a little bit area by area to give you a chance to break it down. The first area are the folks that I rely on beyond the shadow of a doubt. So there is a pointer on here. So first of all, that's me. I want to introduce some who have not met. Harmony, where are you? Oh, there's Harmony. This is Harmony Frederick. Yeah. It is funny because I needed harmony, not in the physical form. I just needed harmony in my life. You all know that Joyce left, and Joyce was a rock for years. And we did a national search, and I was like, I remember my wife saying like, well, oh, what a nice name, Harmony. I was like, oh, she's done more than just bring the name. So Harmony is just not my executive assistant, because when you call something, you have an expectation. And so we changed the position description to be executive assistant and manager of strategic initiatives. That's a good name, Harmony. That's a good, because we've got to get more strategic about who I am and where I am and what I'm doing so that I can be there for you and I can show up fully. I can't pour from an empty cup. Harmony is ensuring that my cup is full, and she's ensuring that my cup runs over. The run over is for all of you because I'm your VP. The cup needs to be full because I'm also a partner, and I'm a father, and I'm a dog owner. All those people, all those individuals need me to have a full cup and to take care of myself mentally, emotionally, psychologically, culturally, physically. So harmony is my glue. Where's Matt? Oh, I was like, where's Matt Smith? He's sitting around the front row. So if you can see, and this is by design, not by default, Matthew Smith is a little bit more elevated than the rest of my AVPs by design. It's like you get to your parents like, well, which sister is your favorite? Mom, do you like me or do you like? That's not what this is. This is more so about strategy realignment. I think you all know that Matthew, because of the president's decision, placed him being the co-chair of the Strategic Planning Committee and also instrumental in the whole Go Far Together piece. It's almost like he has an inside track with the president. Now, some VPs would be extremely insecure about that. I'm trying to take advantage of it because the president trusts his thinking, and I trust his thinking. The president trusts his integrity. I trust his integrity. The president trusts his know-how. And so Matthew is going to be working at the dotted line to Harmony. Me, Matthew, and Harmony are going to spend a lot of time together. And Matthew and Cecily are going to spend a lot of time together. The way we do budget, if it's a hammer, everything's a nail. We've got to do something different. And so we're going to really realign budget and affairs and fiscal affairs. And on that line, too, because I told you my passion. That's why Tomek may quit today, but don't let him get to the exit. Kim, block the door. We're going to prioritize assessment. It is going to come under the division of student affairs, and Harmony is going to help me understand how to make sure that it gets the resources it needs, the attention it needs, the heat and the light it needs, so that we can help you do your jobs better and different. Same way with communication. Where's Marcus? Is Marcus here? Marcus. Marcus is a communication guru. Does that mean that Marcus is now reporting to me? He wishes. But he's not. But because of his expertise, he's going to get in line with Harmony, me, and some other key people, most notably Matt, and we're going to elevate how we communicate. There's no reason that your VP is not more active on social media. Kat, you know about how much I post. It's every blue moon. Shouldn't be, because that's where our students are. Our website, if you go to our website and you go deep into our website, Victor, you would be shocked. There's some pages on the website where I had hair. You know they're old. So we've got to communicate differently, and there are ways that I want to reach out to you all. I want you all to be able to reach out to me, and there are people who know this well. Marcus is one of them, and some of you are one of them. So one of Marcus's charge, along with Harmony, is to raise up a communications committee who can help me, help us communicate different and communicate better, and to use tools to our advantage so that you're not guessing, so that your water cooler conversations have context. And it's not guessing at some things. And so Marcus knows that this is a priority. I think we're meeting sometime soon, huh? Yeah, so Marcus knows that this is a priority for me. I'll be talking to his AVP. I'll be talking to Tomic's AVP, because they have people that they report to, but that shouldn't stop them from helping us become better at communicating, helping you get your websites together and have some connections. And so that's where we're going in that. And then you have the rest of the VPs. This is student life. This is Matt's area. Because we've elevated him, we had to take some things off his plate. Although his plate is still pretty full, he fought to keep Rashida. And is Cecilia here? He fought to keep you two. Said, I will not go down the road without Cecilia and Rashida. I said, well, good, because I think they like the partnership. But we're also moving basic needs into Matt's area. It's already there. The Office of Student Life, Student Conduct will remain, University Housing will remain. And look at that bottom rung, parent and family programs. We have never had parent and family programs on this campus. And you know the weird part is, over 96% of our students, first-year students, guess what? Commute. And guess who most of them live with? Parents and families. Has not been our focus. And even if we built 3 housing units tomorrow, it would still be in the high 90% in terms of the students as commuting. We've got to get intentional. My parents were instrumental during my first year. Instrumental. And so trying to equip and empower and engage and learn from our parents will help us in terms of making sure that our students retain and they remain. So this is the enrollment management area. Not too much to say about that. Admissions and recruitment, records and registration, financial scholarships, data and operation analytics. And that's Marcus's area. Marcus has a whole box of communications. I'm about to rip that box. No, I'm not. I'm not going to rip. That box is just going to help and support us, but enrollment communications are just vital. And then we have Dr. Dang's area. This is the area that's changing hugely. How many of you right now are in the student success bucket area? Yep, I see your hands. This area is going to change tremendously by design and not by default. Dr. Dang is going to be over our first and second year experiences. There will be an office and there will be a director in that, but it will be a direct report to Dr. Dang, who is now the Vice President of Advocacy and Retention. Just being very transparent with you all, you need to know this, and then we need to talk details. EOP will still be in that shop. Alex, hey, y'all, that's Alex. Alex started here as a student, and Alex has returned as an EOP. Stand up, Alex. I'll just give you a shout out, buddy. It's one of my favorite guys right there. He was president of the Male Success Alliance program. Put us on the map. And now you got his little tie on thinking he's something. I'm just kidding, Alex. I'm so glad you're back, bro. Toro Guardian Scholars will still be in that area. Student Disability Resource Center, and then that's where the Affinity Centers. We're about to do some things in the Affinity Centers because we've been trying to fake it till we make it, and it's not working. And we've got to do something different. And I think you know how I am about. I'm done, and it's not good when your VP gets done. And Megan saw me act a fool in the meeting the other day because I'm just done. And I don't want to act a fool. I want to be the nice VP who's collected and cool. But when you treat people how you don't want to be treated, you lose me every time. Lose me. And so right now, the way our Women's Resource Center, bro, our basic needs, come on, these are fundamental pillars of a community, and we've got to get beyond the rhetoric and have some real quality conversations. And so Affinity Centers will be there. We'll talk about what that means. I'm so excited about this. Look at that, Associate Vice President of Health and Well-Being. Yeah, that's a good place to clap. If we're serious about health and well-being, then it's not a director reporting to an AVB reporting to a... because it's important to understand that I need folks to help me understand health and well-being. I'm so happy that Susan is here. Susan, I know this is, but we have Susan Fleming Yates, who's our brand new Director of Student Health Services. Please stand up, let the folks see you. Hi, Susan. We have added, you know how when you go and find, like, let me just do something different. We always reference LeBron. You know, you find a Serena Williams, and you've been wanting someone to come on your team. She brings that kind of a firepower and that kind of passion. It was probably one of the first one-on-one interviews where we spent time talking about phenomenology. I think she was like, this vice president is weird, but I still want to work here. But you bring so much to this table, and so they're going to help me realize this. Case management will be important. And then CAPE, our Center for Advocacy, Prevention, and Empowerment, will now be prioritized in health and wellness and not somewhere else. So I got to go. And then there's not a lot of changes to Brett, but this goodness, Brett is sitting on a $36 million portfolio. Holler at Mr. Waterfield. Yeah, he walks around like he's just sort of, but we have been intentional over the last several years. Now ask him if he has a home for most of them. We've got to get it together. So Brett is over Gear Up, Male Success Alliance, Student Support Service, Talent Search, Upper Bound Math and Science, and then some. Because he also runs some of our community initiatives. Not a lot of change coming in his area for this. And then Dina has just built a fiefdom to herself. I'm so proud of, have y'all met our athletics director? Yeah, she's been here a while. No introduction needed. Do you all know her? Hey, Dina. So Dina, but look at, in terms of, when you know, now she has an AD for communications. How is it that she has an AD for communications and I'm like borrowing Marcus for, we're going to fix it because it's important. But assistant athletics director, compliance and budget, and then our head coaches. So I'm super proud of what Dina has built there. And so the structural realignment is not just happening in student affairs, because guess where else we need to align? Guess. Absolutely. So it's going to happen there too. So you may not be able to read this again, but we're raising up an associate vice president for academic advising and career development. Call a thing a thing. Our students come here to get a degree, and they really want gainful employment and a career when it's over. I love the liberal arts. I love that they get to come and explore and experience. But at the end of the day, they're the first in their families to go to college, and they're the first in their families to graduate at times, and then they're the first in their families to get into the career. And right now, we don't expose them to career until they're in their junior year. Go to the Career Center, which is tucked away on the 3rd floor in the dark. Now we're trying to infuse career and career development into their trajectory from the time they get here. And we're going to now raise up student success centers, Matt will talk more about that, in every major. In every college. So natural behavioral sciences, CBAP, success centers that we're going to hold accountable, that are going to hold us accountable. So lots of change coming to academic affairs. And you'll see on that same line, you have the career person right there, director of the Career Center, because it's going to be infused throughout. We'll have transfer programs, undergraduate advisors, and then a re-enrollment specialist. Remember I told you about that student who was sitting out there with a 3.6 GPA, eligible to enroll, but it's not there? If no one's focused on them, no one's focused on them. They continue to be out there. And then if we can help them re-enroll, because if you want to re-enroll now, there are so many applications and steps you have to go through that it's sad. We're going to fix that, and we're going to have someone in each area trying to sort of deal with that. And so look at the success centers. This is what my niece had at Texas Southern when she walked into her major. Director of the Success Center, let's just say this is CBAP. In that Success Center will be a retention specialist, will be advisors, a graduation specialist. Oh, what, an internship specialist? You're talking about internships already, a faculty member, a case manager, because if a student has food insecurities, you better believe there may be some other insecurities that we need to tap to and get to and focus on. And then there'll be a career coach. I'm going to start as a first-year student, helping you navigate interviews and resumes and try to figure those things out. So the Success Center is what we're going to stand up. And Matthew and Kim have done a phenomenal job, along with all of you and the experts that we brought in terms of trying to set this up. I'm almost done. These will be the folks that will be sitting around the table in each of the Success Centers by design. Tomik will be glad to drop TSC off in every college and keep rolling, because it was never meant to be in one area under one individual doing a few things. It was meant to be infused throughout all of the colleges, and it is now. And it will be even greater when we stand it up. Right now, this is all conceptual. Don't get it twisted. Nobody's hired in these roles right now. We're sitting here in March with more than just a wing and a prayer. We have a plan, and we're recommitting resources to make this happen. So it's really important to sort of get. Final thoughts, because I'm done. That took longer than I wanted it to. But I wanted to be really candid with you, and I probably told way too many family stories. But I can't help but separate who I am from what I do. But my final thoughts are, y'all, we can do this. We can do this better. And we can hold ourselves accountable every year. And accountability is not finger wagging, and it's not blaming. It's just saying, what can we do to focus on the goal that we've set and the objectives we've laid out? How can we get closer to them each year? And then know and understand that if we don't hit the target, at least we aimed, we readied ourselves, we aimed, and then we let it go, and it landed. But if it didn't land where we think it should have landed, and Brett needs to know how Dina aimed, Dina needs to know how Matthew aimed, Matthew needs to know how Liat aimed, Liat needs to know how Susan. So we have this understanding across the board that we can do this different and do this better. The challenge for me, and then I'll turn it over to Matthew really quick. The challenge for me is that if we continue to do the same things we've always done, we're going to get the results we've always gotten. And I don't think any of you, because most of you I know personally, that 68% retention after year one hit you hard, because you know those are attached to families and tias and sisters and brothers, and then they're standing on the ancestors who. So at this point, we have to do better. I believe that we can do better. We've taken a look, and it almost goes back to what my partner told me. We can do better. And so let's be about it, as opposed to just sort of talking about it and then getting beyond the rhetoric. And so, Matthew Smith, do you want to, I think that's next, isn't it? Yep, overview. Oh, yeah, do you want to do questions first? Questions, because that was a lot. That was a lot. So let's do any questions you might have, any comments you might have, any statements you may have. Matthew will come around with them, or you can come up to the mic. We have microphones set up. I told you our harmony is bad. Look at these microphones in the middle of the aisle. So if you have a question, please walk up to the mic, state your name and the area that you work in, and I'll be happy to entertain your question. Come on up. I'd love for just one person to ask a question, because then I feel like we're connected. Don't feel any pressure. I say, are you looking at me, Annalisa? Like, don't call me out, Dr. Any questions at all? Don't want to force questions, but I know I couldn't have been that clear. Oh, really? Oh, thank you so much. Did Kat say that? Matt, give her a raise. Let's put that raise in place tomorrow. All right, well, then we're not going to force questions. I was a middle school teacher. I could wait you out, but why? I think we're good. So, Matthew, why don't you come up and talk about strategic plan? But this overlaps, and if there are any questions later, you all just let me know. Harmony, I never got that water. Oh, there it is.
Awesome. So just real quick, because we want to turn this strategic planning piece into a little bit of a conversation, but I want to cover some of the strategic plan and specifically highlight a couple of things that really point to our division of student affairs and where we might see ourselves. It's not meant to be exhaustive, but it's really just meant to be kind of point to some of those places. This is going to be a living document, so there's going to be more that comes from it, and there's even more in it right now that we could point to. But for the sake of conversation, we'll keep it pretty brief, and then allow you all to kind of have some discussion on that. Do you still have the clicker? May I borrow it? All right. So how many of you all were at the strategic plan kickoff? Couple hands. How many of you haven't heard, this is your first time hearing anything about the strategic plan? Yeah, 80% of you didn't vote at all. So just really quickly, our strategic planning process, I mean, we sent out invites starting in May 2020. We did all of this virtually, but went out and tried to get feedback from the community as much as possible. And really at the heart of what we're trying to do is really looking at becoming the model urban metropolitan university. And in order to do that, we believe that means that we must really create a socially just, equitable, and inclusive campus community, and really let that be the hallmark of who we are. And that's what we heard over and over again through the various conversations we had with the communities. And so under the strategic plan, you'll have a theme, and then there's a theme statement that describes what the university commits to doing under that theme. And then there's one or two goals, and then under that, there's a list of things that we're saying that we're going to accomplish and by when. So if you look on the strategic planning website, that's what you will see. So for the sake of our Thriving Students theme, right? This is where we talk about supporting students to overcome barriers and navigate CSUDH by providing programs and services for holistic success at all levels. Couple things that I just want to point out to us in our conversation that's in the strategic plan. First, that by fall 2022, the campus will restructure advising and other support structures. And so that is what Dr. Franklin just began discussing, and that what we did our retreat around. And so that we are hoping to kind of have that up and running by the fall. By fall 2023, the campus will ensure that all of our Infinity Centers, this includes our Women's Resource Center, our Total Dreamer Success Center, Rose Black Resource Center, Queer Culture Resource Center, the APCC, Latinx Resource Center, all of those resource centers will have functional space and operating budgets, right? And so that's part of what we're looking at. And we believe that they're going to play a critical role in advancing the work and some of the things that we want to do moving forward. And then by summer 2024, the campus will collaborate to redesign new student orientation, first and second year, and transfer year experiences to really integrate leadership, identifying with their major curriculum things that they need to know in that process. And so we're going to commit to redesigning that. And so those are just a few of the things that are under there. We also have Thriving Educators, which really looks at providing equitable and inclusive professional development, supporting staff on campus, and making sure that we're positioned to thrive as well, faculty and staff. And so in this one, we talk about establishing a professional development center for staff so that we can really provide the diverse type of professional development we need within the Division of Student Affairs and across campus. We'll also be able to develop onboarding processes and have the infrastructure necessary to assess the impact of the professional development programs and services that we're going to have. It also includes mentoring programs and onboarding for staff so that we can better support them. Equitable access is one I'm really excited about. This is real. We really begin to talk about engaging and opportunities to provide equitable access, not just into our campus, but through our campus. Online courses, programs and services online, scholarship dollars to reduce the cost of college. And so we'll want to also make sure we develop affordable housing on campus. We'll be working with all student-facing units to create almost like these plans that can be funded. Many of us have amazing things that are going on in our areas that we may not have the stateside resources to fund outright. But that doesn't mean that we can't develop plans to say, if I had resources, this is what I would be able to do, and then partner with advancement for them to go out and find money to fund some of those initiatives and things that we want to do. And so that's part of this as well. And we want to increase the number of student assistants on campus. And so those are some of the things around culture of care. Dr. Franklin started off talking about this, that one of the things we learned through the pandemic was the need to really just center wellness and well-being. and be in community with one another. And so this is something that we really want to lean into, and that will develop this Toro Wellness Hub that has already started, but really invest in that and make that a critical part of what we do, have critical elements of that happen during Toro hours so that we can all engage in it and we can engage our students in that as well. Pillar of the community. This theme really talks about this mutually beneficial relationship between the campus and our local community, which has always been really important to DH. And so how do we do that and really begin to identify the great things that are happening and begin to leverage the expertise on campus to make sure we take full advantage of those opportunities, but that we're also spreading awareness around the great things that are happening in the community. I know when I was in Brett's role, I could go into a school and begin to start a partnership with them and not know that like Kamal Hamden and his team was already there. And so how do we then make sure we understand who's where, what work is being done so that we can really maximize our impact and make intentional investments in the work that's taking place. And so this pillar of the community also allows us to engage in curriculum. This one and Thriving Students and Thriving Educators allows us to kind of all collaborate and also create like community engaged curriculum, which is also another opportunity for student affairs to engage on that space. And so if you haven't had a chance to look through these, just encourage you before we leave the room tonight to or today to take a look at the work that's over there, as well as these that are up here, and provide more context. And our Student Affairs website has all of this information on there. And so just wanted to give you a quick overview and then allow you to kind of just engage in discussion with some people around you. We didn't start off at asking you to introduce yourself, so just take a minute, introduce yourself to the people around you if you haven't already, and just respond to a couple of these questions. One is, what excites you about the strategic plan? What do you believe? Another one, what do you believe this plan will allow our campus to do that we are not doing right now? The third question is, what are the things the implementation committee should consider when working on the strategic plan? And then lastly, what questions might you still have about the plan? So you can do that if you need to kind of get up, take a quick look to answer these questions, but just turn to the people around you and engage in conversation to answer these. All right. So just want to check in, get a couple responses from you all. So anybody want to share what excites you about the plan?
I have a mic on this side. I'll bring it. Bring
Awesome.
it.
Anybody? What did you discuss?
Oh, now I'm gonna start calling on people.
I know this is.
Harmony here representing the online audience, and we have 39 people joining us today. Jerry Jones commented, what excites me is that this plan seems to be more student-centered and staff-focused. And then we also have a couple more. Dr. Franklin's words also make it seem like holistic consideration of staff health and well-being is going to be put on the forefront. That's from Sarah. Is it Leanin? Is that how you say her name? Yep. And then from Jerry again, the plan will allow all of us to get to know each other better and not be so far removed to the leadership we would like to get to know better.
The online people
Leinen, Sarah Leinen, thank you.
Start calling on people, Matt. Oh, there we go.
Sean, I'm calling on Sean. Oh, she raised. Okay.
I'm not going to stand up. This preggy body needs a moment. I think I'm most excited to see that we are hiring so many folks to be at the helm of some of these decisions because that culture of care, we all have it, but we don't have the bandwidth, and there's not enough of us to do all the things that we would like to do for our students. So having more people that are joining our teams, I think is going to actually let us bring that to fruition.
Great. Thanks, Sean. And I think one of the things we're talking about is also getting creative with personnel. We often believe that it's always like just a full-time position that needs to be baseline. There's some creative things we can do with part-time positions, with GAs, the whole nine that we have to look at. And one of the things that came up during the strategic planning process was we don't have enough just to do what we're supposed to be doing right now, so don't give us more. And so it's going to be imperative for us to make sure that it's very clear what we need at the most fundamental level so that you can really lean into this culture of care. It can't just be doing more with less. Perfect. And then we'll come to you, Tiffany. I see your hand.
Oh, it is on. I was going to say I'm excited that, and this kind of goes along with what you're saying, like hiring folks to do like specific things. And I think that goes back to accountability. So it's easy to say like, oh, student success is everyone's job. But then like when something happens, it's like, well, who's specifically, in charge of addressing this challenge or, issue or opportunity. So having like particular people in new positions that are really going to be able to hold the university accountable for certain things is great.
Yep. And can I just tell you, Kat, like in line with what Dr. Franklin was saying earlier too, as we hire more people, there's going to be like new things we start doing because more people are here. But like in your areas, you all also have to think about like if you're going to be doing new stuff even with new staff, start thinking about what we can stop doing, right? Like, and I know that's like usually a conversation that comes up in higher ed and you get blank stares like nothing, but there are things we can stop doing. And we have to really take stock of that and not just overwhelm the new staff with more stuff and overwhelm ourselves. So it's something that we're going to have to look at. Tiffany.
Hello. Oh, hello?
Yep.
This feels so weird with the mask on and all that good stuff. But, okay, coolio. All right, then thank you. Talking amongst our group over here on, I don't know what side of the room. But anyways, I wanted to bring up or suggest like maybe a resource fair just for us as staff members and even for faculty. A lot of us are in the room and we don't know what each other's departments do exactly. In particular, I work in the disability office with my coworkers here, Cara, and we have another Catherine, AKA Katz. And a lot of times people don't know what our office does until it's like, all hell is breaking out for a student, and so maybe someone doesn't know, like if they're off because of a medical concern, to come to our office, or like say, for example, we may not know exactly, say, for example, what they do in, say, financial aid, or just whatever it may be. So if we had a resource fair that we all can attend, maybe presentations or something like that, so then when we're advising students or working with students, how to refer them to a different department. And then the second thing I just wanted to share was that I think sometimes that as advisors, we have multiple advisors on campus, but if you're not an academic advisor, you're not always invited to the meetings. And so sometimes, as we are all like touching these students in different ways, because they're shared, it would be nice for us to be able to attend meetings because then we can share information, like talking to Brian, right? Just say, for example, a student needs to drop a class, and the academic advisors are telling them, great, you can drop this class by this date. But is that advisor also saying, I need you to work with financial aid because you have to see about how much money you made, and things like that. So then that way we're all on the same path. No, we're not going to give out financial aid advice, but it's good to know to be able to bank them to each, for us to share each other. So those are just some suggestions.
Great, thank you. Great ideas.
What did this group have for lunch? That was
Well.
excellent.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
Hi, Izzy with the local student union. In just discussing, I think what was really exciting was just knowing that there is a plan and just pulling from my experience, having worked at other institutions. At example, at UNLV, we were very involved in the process of creating that strategic plan as a group together and creating what the pillars of what the division, were. So it's exciting to see that happening and just like she was just previously sharing that created a lot of ownership within each of the departments of the division, and then we had exposure to each area. We knew what each other, what we were doing, and then just having everyone on the same page. So it's definitely an exciting direction.
I appreciate that. That's why Tiffany's comments were so amazing. I remember sitting in a meeting at one time, and Dr. Herbert said to me, now I'm just be totally transparent, like, can we talk about what Brett's area does? I don't really know what Brett's area does. On my team, that's on me. And Tiffany, what you just described, that's on us. We could have a coffee break and have an enrollment management resource fair and then go for coffee. We can walk around to the enrollment management tables, find out what they do in records and registration, find out. Then we can move it on to Matt's area and then do a coffee break. There's no reason why. So that's why I am fully, not that my leadership team is not enough. They're not enough. So that's why we're going to have a staff advisory, because that kind of stuff that comes from the staff, the leadership team may not have the bandwidth to provide, and I probably shouldn't expect it. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you, Tiffany, for that. That was really well stated. Mayra.
Good morning, or good afternoon, everybody. Today has flown by. My name is Maida. I'm Director for Encounter to Excellence. Well, we think about what we're excited for as these new changes, and the strategy is planned and executed, and we contribute to a new vision for really for what's in the best interest of our students. I do want to recognize my team, because one of the changes that will be happening is that ETE will no longer be. And I want to acknowledge that, because ETE has been around, Encounter to Excellence has been around for 12 years now. We've contributed tremendously to the campus. And I think I keep looking at my team. I know you probably don't want that recognition.
A-team.
But if you could just wave, you could, I want to
A-team.
acknowledge ETE, because this team of academic counselors has been amazing. And not just them, but the folks that came before. We took your vision, Dr. Paso Olivares took your vision, designed it. I don't think Sylvia's here. She was the first ETE advisor.
Yeah.
I came along, and we developed ETE into just an amazing program that has supported students through academic counseling, peer mentoring, leadership development, what have you. And so, as I'm excited about this, there's also, I think, these changes are impacting folks.
Yeah,
And so I
that's
think
true.
I hope that we take the time to commemorate the impact that ETE has had on this campus, and then also just the people that have made that possible. So.
Yeah, we can make that happen, Maida, and we'll follow your lead. Can I just have the ETE team stand up? She didn't want you to stand up, but I do. So please stand. Don't let me call you out. Thank you. Thank you, because I was an EOP student at Cal State Northridge, and literally they loved the hell out of me. South Central kid, showing up, had major issues. Encountered an EOP program. Jose Luis Vargas, and Sean knows Jose Luis very well. Jose Luis Vargas was my lifeline. And I got to Northridge, got to Cal State Dominguez Hills. I was on the faculty at LA. I'm still in therapy for that. So left the faculty, came to Dominguez Hills, encountered EOP, and I remember going to my vice president saying, we need more money for EOP. And he literally laughed at me because they stopped funding EOP back when the Jackson 5 were together. I mean, they just did, there's just no new money for EOP. And I thought, well, that's crazy. We're at Dominguez Hills. We have more first-gen students, more students. And so literally my vice president allowed me as the director of EOP to write a Title V grant. And that's how ETE was born. Holla at me, I got $5.5 million. That's enough to start an encounter. And we started Encounter to Excellence, and I give a shout out. Paz may not be watching, but I hope it gets to her. Paz Oliveras was my first hire. And she came in, and Mayra was right. My vision was this for ETE. ETE became this. And because of you and those folks who preceded you, and so your impact and your reach, you will always be ETE. We want every student to encounter excellence upon their entry, but we also want them to encounter excellence upon their exit with degree in hand, a career in mind, maybe finding a partner. I don't know. There's a lot that goes on when you come through college. So ET, you're not going anywhere. We're just going to take your excellence and ensure that students get it and that we infuse it throughout every one of the colleges. But we should think of something, Mayra, more formal and more connected, and invite the alums back, invite students back. Alex can help us do that. He has a good handle on many ETE students, and really celebrate what began as a vision in director of EOP's head and turned into a movement. So we will do that. Matt, anything else?
No, I think we can prepare to close. I think there was one thing. I know we're up against time here. I wanted to get to the rest of these questions, but we may not have time. I see one hand that we can make sure we get to before we go into the recognition.
I just wanted to say the likelihood or the excitement about possible financial means for students, because as we work with students, we hear a lot of the reasons why they don't return is financial responsibility, helping family. Not that they don't want to be here, right? Our students are very motivated, and I will always say, like, our students are not without ganas, without the energy, the motivation, the drive to do it. It's the financial situation. So I'm excited to hear that that is going to be something that can come to fruition, and I'm on board with what Tiffany said. I think that before we even have a resource fair, all it takes is a phone call, right? So I appreciate Tiffany because I've called on her and other folks, emailed them, so we can support students, and I really, really hope that that will continue even further with these plans. So thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Well said. Well said.
All right. Lots of love for Tiffany. Everything she said should be written in scripture. Yeah. Jerry Jones says, if we see an issue, we should have the authority within our scope to fix it. And then, is it Coach Kano? Is that how you say his last name? So Coach has something for us. One moment. Yeah, all righty. I personally like the plan to have an even more communication plan for all of us together to help our students be very successful. Dina, our athletic director, has brought us a great, safe, and new culture thinking. Let's make it better for our athletes. Our student athletes also bring us new students because they are having a good experience here. Our CSUDH is the best on the best education for the best price. Coach Kano.
Awesome. Sounds like Dina signed in as Coach Kano. No, no, that's great. Thank you, Coach. And thank you for the feedback. I think the money to students is going to be really important. I just want to re-emphasize that we're all going to have to play a role in like putting together plans that are really excellent and fundable, and working with advancement to advance those so that we can create opportunities for students to get more scholarship dollars, more student assistant opportunities on campus. And it can't just be giving students money. We also want to make sure that we're helping, like using that to like introduce students to really impactful and transformative experiences. So think about the need that we have to make sure that students reduce their cost of college, gives them more opportunity to engage in the great programs and services we have on campus, and how we can create experiences for them that ties both of those together. And yeah.
I introduced Susan, but I don't want to, I'd be remiss if I didn't see if we had any other new folks who've joined us both online and here. If the 40 folks online had been here, we'd be really shoulder to shoulder. Don't know if I'm ready for all that. I'm going to need help getting back into, because you know we're about to lift these mask mandates. Yes, coming soon to a theater near you. Now, you'll still have the choice to, because my daughter, we were at Islands yesterday eating because she won a character award and we got a free Islands meal. And you know we do free. And so we went to Islands and they'd lifted the mask mandate. And she was like telling people, why your mask is not on? I'm like, girl, you're going to get us arrested. New? Can you stand up, introduce yourself, and tell us where you are?
Hello, everyone. Is this mic on? Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Aishante Peoples. I am an admissions counselor. Sorry, guys. I just got here. I'm not. I'm a recruiter and admissions advisor, and I work with the outreach services. So I'm looking forward to meet all of you guys and work with these lovely young ladies.
Nice. I love your
Awesome.
name. What does it mean? What does your name mean?
It means nice to meet you in French. Yes.
That's a beautiful name. Who else? New?
Hi, everyone. My name is Candice Manansala. I work for ASI, but I am the new Children's Center Director for Cal State Dominguez Hills. Welcome, and come to the center.
She's supposed to be setting up a tour for the VP. I'm looking so forward to coming and seeing it. And I saw the little video online, too. That's very nice. Who else new?
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Lopez. I'm actually a new admissions evaluator.
Nice to meet you all. My name is Ramon Torres. I'm admissions evaluator as well.
And then someone from our online audience, Tanae Aubrey, is with the Toro One Stop in Enrollment Management. She is an enrollment services advisor.
I know Tanae. Hey, Tanae. Other new folk? No more new folk. What else was I supposed to do, Harmony and Matt? Well, let's get to some food and some.
Yeah, so it's just the food. So downstairs we have food, refreshments, opportunity to meet new staff, to say hello to people you haven't seen in a while, or meet people you haven't had an opportunity to meet yet. So we just invite you all to join us downstairs for some food and refreshments. And for everybody that was joining online, thank you for being with us. We hope to see you all on campus soon.